Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome to my Photography Masterclass. My name is Terry White, worldwide photography and design evangelist for Adobe, and it's my pleasure to give you the pre-stream. That's right, you're watching this on, usually if you're seeing a pre-stream, you're watching it on either my Facebook or my YouTube. And I like to just come in a couple minutes early before the main Adobe live stream and just give you like a bonus tip or two. So that's what we're doing right now. We're going to do a bonus tip. So I'm just going to go ahead and we got 4 minutes before we start the main show. I'm just going to go ahead and switch over to my desktop, and I'm going to show you a bonus tip for Lightroom Classic users. And I may even get another tip in for all Lightroom users. So let's go ahead and switch over to my desktop. And I've got this collection that we're going to be working on today. So I just got a variety of photos that we're going to be editing. And hey, Felix, how you doing, man? Great to hear from you. Great to see you. So I have a bunch of photos we're going to be editing today. Morning, Christine. And one of the things that made it easier to collect those photos, because they're from all different shoots, from all different years, from all different collections, was to create or set what's called a target collection. So for example, I've got this collection called Editing. And it's the collection that I'm going to be working with today. But you'll notice that Editing has a plus sign after it. I didn't type the plus sign. That came in automatically when I did a right click on any one collection. So like, for example, I'll temporarily do it this one. If I right click on this collection and I say set as target collection, then it'll put the plus sign in front of that one. So you know that that's the target collection. So I'll go back to my editing one, do the same thing, right click, and set as target collection. Now, when you're setting the target collection, what does that mean? What does that do? What you're telling Lightroom is now you can go anywhere. You can go to a folder, you can go to a collection, you can go anywhere in Lightroom. And when you have a photo you want to put in the editing collection, so let me show you. Let's say that I wanted to go to all the way down here to a previous Photography Masterclass collection. So let's say I wanted to add one of these to that collection. So let's say I want to add this one. Then all I have to do is either A, I can just click the little circle icon right here, that's add to target collection, or just hit the letter B. When I hit the letter B, you'll see that it says temporarily, it brought it up, adding to target collection. So now I can go all over the place. I can scroll, I can just keep hitting the letter B, and it'll just keep adding those in. So if I hit this one, letter B, it adds it in. So now when I go back to my target collection, those two photos are now in there. So it saves you from having to drag up and down your collection list trying to find the one you're trying to add them to. So you just set one as the target collection, whichever collection you're going to be working on, and you just go to any photo you want anywhere in Lightroom and just hit the letter B and it will add it in. Now, we got a couple minutes left, or actually about 1 minute left. I just want to point out we are going to be making some HDRs, which is high dynamic range. And another tip is that when you select multiple photos and you right click on them, and if I can right click, there we go. You right click on them and you go to photo merge and you choose HDR panorama or HDR panorama. It will do that in the background in both versions of Lightroom. So once it starts processing, you can go on and keep working on the next set of photos. So those are your bonus tips for this morning's Photography Masterclass pre-stream. I'm going to go to the lobby now so I can get ready and get started in just a few seconds for the main event. All right, thanks everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Masterclass Friday. My name is Terry White, worldwide design and photography evangelist here at Adobe, and it's my pleasure to be streaming to you live once again on a Friday morning, at least Friday morning my time. I know some of you are watching in the middle of the night, your time, afternoon, evening, but whatever it is, good day, good evening, good night to everyone that are watching here. Love doing these master classes because it gives me a chance to focus on a specific genre, which is photography, or creativity, which is photography. And I get to really focus on something for at least an hour or close to an hour. So today we're going to be just talking about editing. We're going to be talking about all kinds of editing techniques and tips and tricks. And I'm just going to fill the next 53 minutes of just editing, I won't say random photos because I did take some time and put them together, but editing some photos of different types. So we'll do some landscapes, we'll do some portraits, we'll do some still life, we'll do, just basically whatever we can fit in this next 53 minutes. So it's great seeing so many of you already in the chat. I see a bunch of folks that are regulars like Sean and Steve and Mary Brown and Marilyn and William and J.R. Flores and Mike. I see Marcel, and I saw Victoria early in there. And it's great to have so many of you here. Now, if you are watching this on one of my other social media platforms, if you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, great. Thanks for watching. And if you're watching the replay, great. I love replay numbers. However, if you want to participate in the chat, if you want me to see a question, if you want me to acknowledge something that you're asking, then the main chat that I'm going to be focused on, if I randomly see your question, I might get to it, but the one I'm definitely going to be looking at is the one over at b.net/Adobe Live, that one right there. So if you head over to b.net/Adobe Live, you can join us, and that's where the whole Adobe Live community is all day today. And all day, every day. And that's where you can get your questions answered quicker, because I may not see them in all the various other channels that I'm streaming to right now. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and dive in. Now, I've done a couple of sessions where I request photos, like you send me photos, and the sessions are called How I Would Edit Your Photos. And those have been very, very successful. I'm doing those now monthly because people really, really like seeing the process, or just another opinion on how someone would edit your photo. Like if you sent me a photo, how I would, the approaches I would take to edit it. Well, today, I'm not going to use your photos, I'm going to use mine. So all of the photos, I'll tell you otherwise, but all of the photos we're going to be looking at are photos I've photographed over the years. So these are my own, coming from my own camera. So again, some are professional models, some are just people. And of course, landscapes are landscapes. So let's go ahead and dive in, and let's turn off the Adobe Live thing. There we go. And so now, and by the way, I'm going to be using a variety of different apps today. I'm going to be using Lightroom Classic, which is my go-to. That's where I live in most of the time. I can also show you usually the same thing in Lightroom Cloud version, the standard just Lightroom. And of course, we can even go in and talk about Lightroom on mobile, which I'm not connected to for some reason right now. Oh, I know why. Because I rebooted that machine. Let's try that again. All right, let's see if it comes up now. There we go. So we'll be talking about Lightroom mobile. So there's Lightroom running on my iPad Pro. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive in. And I'm going to switch back to the desktop for now, and I'm going to talk about, let's do a landscape first, since I got some landscapes already selected there. So these particular landscapes, let me just deselect for a second. These first three were taken in Iceland, and you kind of saying, well, wait, they look the same except the exposure is off on each one. Same thing here. These look the same. The exposure is off on each one. So since this is a photography masterclass, this is called bracketing. So this is where you set your camera, typically, to do at least 3 exposures. You could do 2, you could do 3, you could do 5, you could do 7, but typically 3. And you're usually setting it to capture 2 stops of difference, 2 stops of light difference between them. So here's one that's super bright, here's one that's super dark, and here's the one that's kind of in the middle. So 2 stops brighter, 2 stops darker, and the one that's in the middle. All right, so why do we do that? We do that so that we can capture a high dynamic range. In other words, If you've ever been in a situation with your smartphone or even with a regular camera and you're photographing someone against a bright window, and your eye can see the person and it can see the window, it can see the light, it can see what's outside the window. But cameras just aren't quite there yet. They're getting there. Some have HDR built in. But for the most part, cameras aren't as good as your eye. So they will pick one or the other to expose. So either your outside shot is nicely exposed and your person is completely in the shadows, or your person's completely or nicely exposed and the window is completely blown out. It's just a big white box. So that is why we shoot, that's why we shoot bracketed. So great question, Rebecca. Does your camera need to be on a tripod to take these bracketed shots? Need? No. Should? Yes. So I've done plenty of bracketed shots where I was not on a tripod and they worked out fine. But it just means you got to be, you either have to go click, click, click 3 times really fast so that there's very little movement, or if it needs to be, if the exposures need a longer time, then you're going to run the risk when it goes down to the when it tries to overexpose it, you're going to be in a situation where the shutter needs to stay open longer and you're going to get a blurry shot. So it just depends on the lighting. Like these, I could have shot with handheld. I think I was on a tripod, but these could have been handheld because they were in the morning and it was bright enough. So it just really depends on the light. But if you ask me, should you have a tripod when you're shooting bracketed, I'm always going to say yes. Do you have to have one? No, but you should. Okay, so now that we know what bracketing is and why we do it, how do you put it together in Lightroom, whether it's Lightroom Cloud or Lightroom Classic? So either way, you select all 3, you right-click, and there will be a photo merge option. So there's photo merge HDR or Control H. It's right there. And the same thing, if I were to go to the Lightroom Cloud version and select the same 3 photos, right click, and there should be a photo merge option somewhere. There it is, photo merge HDR. Same keyboard shortcut, Control H. So either application does it the same way. Now, the other cool thing about this is that when I do go to photo merge, I'm back in Classic now, photo merge HDR, it will bring up this dialog box, and this dialog box is kind of a preview. It kind of shows you what it's going to do if you say yes. And you'll notice that there's a deghost option. So the deghost option is really for those situations where something in the shot might be moving, like a flag waving in the wind, or a horse riding by. And, so those are the kinds of things where if you took it 3 times, even if you went click, 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 that horse running by is going to be moving in 3 different shots. They're not going to be in the exact same shot. Now, there's nothing really moving here. The water's completely still. The clouds aren't really moving. So I really could get away with no deghost options. And when you have this turned on low, medium, or high, and it's just really how much motion is there, a little motion, a little more motion, or a lot of motion, what it's doing is it's picking a frame to freeze on. So it's saying, okay, this horse ran by, I'm going to pick one of these frames and just stick to that frame for the rest of the HDR. So again, if it's not moving, you don't need deghosting. If it is moving, you do. And you also have the option on Classic of creating a stack, meaning it will put all the images together in one icon. And in Lightroom Cloud, it just does that automatically. All right, so you'll notice also it's set to auto align. So this is for the person that isn't using a tripod, like me sometimes. Then it will align the images together, and then it will apply the auto tone to it. So if you don't apply the auto tone, then it's just gonna put them together as they are, and you will be able to go into Lightroom and further adjust them. And even if it does apply the auto tone, you'll still be going to Lightroom and further adjust them. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and merge. Now, when we say this merge, it is creating a 4th photo. So it's not doing anything to your 3, so you don't have to worry about, oh no, is it messing with my 3 photos? No, it's creating a 4th new photo. So that 4th new photo is typically called the name of the photo with the addition of HDR on it. So it put together a nicer exposure of the 3. So it gave me the nice exposed mountains. It gave me the nice exposed water. It gave me the nice exposed clouds from all 3 shots. So now if I go into further develop it, if I go into the develop module to edit it, now I've got a better starting point to do all the things I want to do than the one of those exposures that's going to either be too dark in one area or too light in the other area. Now I got a great foundation for all 3. So what would I do here? One of the first things I would do is I would have hit auto, but auto's already been applied. So all my sliders have already been moved a little. So the next thing I would do is, I'm going to fix them, but the next thing I would do is like, well, it's driving me crazy that this horizon is crooked. So I can't do anything else until I fix that. So I'm going to go into my, my crop tool. And normally you can just rotate the crop. You can kind of eyeball it and fix it yourself. I don't do it that way. Let me escape out of it. Instead, it's much easier for me to just use the angle tool. If I grab the angle tool, because I can see what should be straight. So for example, this line should be straight. So I just draw a line along that edge and then it straightens it for me. I don't have to guess. I don't have to line it up with a grid. I don't have to eyeball it. I can just say, oh, that line should be straight. So therefore it should now straighten out that horizon, and it did. Okay, so the next thing I might do is, because again, auto doesn't do everything that I would want. So I would first and foremost after that go in and choose a profile. So you have Adobe Landscape. These are kind of just subtle profile differences. They're not meant to be your final image. And you have Adobe Vivid. I tend to lean towards Vivid even on my landscapes. So let's go to Vivid. And if I don't like it, I'll also compare it to Landscape. Oh, actually, in this case, I might like Landscape just slightly better. Yeah, see how Vivid is even a little darker, even though it shouldn't be the case. And Landscape kind of brightened up this area a little bit. So I'm going to actually use Landscape in this case. There is no law. You can use either one you want. You don't have to use any of them. So the other thing it did is it increased the vibrance, which I'm okay with. It increased the saturation, which I'm okay with in this case. I'm usually not okay with increasing saturation when it's a person. But since this is a landscape, I'm cool with it. The other thing that auto does not do is it does not ever, at least to date, change dehaze or clarity or texture. So that sky is still a little bit blown out for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and dehaze a little bit just to kind of bring some of that back in, just a slight amount. Also, I might go in and grab a graduated filter, pull that down. Oh, and by the way, the graduated filter I might use would be the dehaze preset, and pull that down so I can just do it from the top down. So about right there. All right, so now I can, because I've added that graduated filter, which is non-destructive, by the way, everything I'm doing here is non-destructive. I can dehaze a little bit more, not too much, because then you're going to start destroying your photo. Don't go too far. That's why I like Lightroom. They're sliders. If it hurts going one way, go the other way. And I might go in and just bring down the exposure of the sky just a hair. All right. And then I can get out of that just by clicking on the icon again, and I've got a much better starting point. So we're coming a ways here. Now you could also go in and say, well, maybe I just want to brush this little section right here. So I can go into an adjustment brush. I've got the same preset, so I could either start with dehaze or temperature or exposure. I'm going to use dehaze. And this is allowing me to do dehaze on a brush, or any of those on a brush. Oh, that's way too much. But anyway, I can go in here and I can brush this and kind of bring this in. And then once I've got that brushed, I can say, whoa, 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 too much dehaze. Pull it back a little bit. About right there. All right. Okay, and you know, I can keep going, but that's kind of what I would do on this photo. So when you think about it, people always ask me, well, when would I use Lightroom, or when would I use Photoshop, or when would I use this, or when would I use that? I typically start in Lightroom, get as far as I can, and if there's nothing else I need to do, then I'm done. I don't need to go to Photoshop. But if I run into something I want to do, let's say I wanted to move this rock over to the right, well, Lightroom can't do that. So then I would go into Photoshop, or maybe I want to duplicate the rock and have two of them. Then I would go to Photoshop to do that because Lightroom can't. So I start in Lightroom always, even with a portrait, do as much as I can. And when I can't, when I've reached a limit or hit a wall, then I take it over to Photoshop to finish it. So as I have always said in the past few weeks of doing these, or months now, Lightroom's for editing. Photoshop is for finishing your photo. So I like to start in Lightroom and edit and finish it in Photoshop if I need to. Now there's one little white space up there from the auto merge. So I would just go ahead, if I were in Photoshop, I'd clone that out. But let's try the spot removal tool. The spot removal tool might do it. I could also crop it, but let's just test that. Let's just move that up there. And did it do anything? I'm not even seeing where that's picking up from. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and crop it because it's not gonna lose enough of it to matter. Let's crop that down like a hair. And now that's been fixed. Okay, so that's it. That's kind of where I would go with this landscape. I could always do more, but we have more photos to work on. Okay, so let's get out of that one. And again, you have your 3 originals. So this is where we came from, and this is where we ended up. So we came from those 3, and we ended up here so far. You could always do more, but we're gonna just keep going. Do you ever use custom profiles? I created a couple, but I usually just use the Adobe ones. Yeah, I created like one for portraits, and I end up just using the portrait one. Not to say that you shouldn't, but I just find myself using those more often. Okay, I had a comment during this shoot. You guys were here for this one, or most of you were. This was a shoot we did a couple weeks ago, and we were doing the wine and the champagne bottles and all that. And I never edited these, but one of the comments I got on this one of these, or both of them, was, would you ever use 2 wine glasses? And I kind of joked about it in the class because I didn't have the second one handy. But the answer was, yeah, if I had one, I would actually, the shot I think would have looked better with 2 glasses. In other words, you're not usually doing wine and cheese by yourself. Maybe you are, but typically you would be sharing that with another person. And I thought, oh man, now that you've said that, whoever said that comment, I'm never going to look at this photo the same again because I kind of wish I had 2 glasses. We can solve that today. All right, so first let's go ahead and edit first. Let's go to the develop module. Let's see, we shot this with Flash. So we'll switch it to the Flash Flash white balance. Adobe Color, Vivid, let's use Vivid. I like Vivid better. And then we'll use Auto to auto tone it. That's bringing out some of the details I want. And I might add some more texture to this. I could have added more texture to that landscape we were just working on too. And I might go in and bump up the shadows a bit more. Just bring out some more of that shadow detail. Okay, and we're kind of, again, I can just keep playing with sliders, but we're kind of there. All right, so next thing I would do, because I want to add that second glass, I can't do that in Lightroom. There's no cloning, no easy cloning. There's no real effective way to do that in Lightroom. That's when I've hit the wall, and now it's time to head over to Photoshop. So in this case, I would right-click, edit in Photoshop, or Command-E, or Control-E. And what that will do is, since this is still a RAW file, I never even converted it to DNG. It's still the RAW file that came out of the camera. I don't have to worry about making a copy because it's going to automatically make a copy. If it's a raw image, Lightroom doesn't even say anything. It just starts opening up a copy of it in Photoshop, and there it is. So you always have the original one. You don't have to worry about making a copy of an image that's a raw file. So even if you mess up in Photoshop and you just destroy the photo, you still have the original raw file to go back to. However, if this was shot in JPEG, TIFF, or whatever, then when you do Command-E or right-click Edit in Photoshop, it's going to ask you, do you want to make a copy or do you want to edit the original? Yes, make a copy, because then that will be your copy. All right, so now let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. And there's that beautiful glass, which I wish I had 2 of them. And what makes this a little difficult is we don't see all of the glass. and we don't see, like, there's a leaf behind it, and there's, you know, the reflections and everything in it. And it's just like, oh, you know, how would I do this? So I kind of thought about this as I was coming up to this class, and I said, well, one of the first things I would try and do is select it. Let me see where my selection tool is that I want. Oh, it's not here. So let's go ahead and grab the object selection tool. That's brand new in Photoshop, as a few versions ago. So it's the object selection tool, and it's normally under your quick select. I need to edit this toolbar to have what I want in it. But anyway, there's the object select tool. And why I like the object select tool is it's like select subject on a tool. So Rebecca's asking a question: to export to Photoshop, do you export out as DNG or TIFF files? To export, you don't have to do anything. It will take whatever it is and open it up in Photoshop. So this was a NEF file. If it were a DNG or if it was a TIFF, it just would have done it. Now, if it was a TIFF, it would have asked me, do I want to make a copy? So it takes care of that for you. Now, you can control in your Lightroom settings in Classic what it comes back as. Normally, by default, it comes back as a TIFF. I've changed mine, so when I'm done with this, it'll come back as a PSD. Photoshop document. Okay, so I'm just going to drag a rectangle selection around the glass. And Photoshop is smart enough to know, even though that there's other objects in there, hey, he's talking about the glass. So it didn't get the cheese, it did get the leaf, that's fine, I'm okay with that. But it got the glass. And now I can go ahead and go to Layer, and New Layer via Copy or Command J. And that will put that up on a layer all by itself. That's cool, that's what I want, we're getting there. And now I'm going to go in and use the Move tool and just move it over. So there's our copy. And I'm going to move it over. And I can even kind of overlap them a little bit. I think that would be kind of cool. And now we've got, and maybe move it up slightly. And now we've got our second glass that would be in the front, but the bottom is all like weird because the bottom wouldn't have been that way. Actually, I'm going to move it down a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a mask to that layer. Just add a layer mask down here on the bottom of the layers panel. And then I can go in using a paintbrush. We'll grab a brush and we'll use black paint. And we'll make that brush bigger using my right bracket key. And I'm just going to come down here and say, well, you know what? What if that glass were really behind the cheese? If it were behind it, then it would kind of look like that. And that would be okay. And I can even zoom in and do a better job. Oh, actually, that would be okay. You could have a leaf in the grapes, but let's go ahead and go back in, grab our brush, and we can kind of just brush out parts of this so that we don't even see it. Now, if you were really going to be picky, you could go in and clone down the glass so you wouldn't have that green reflection, because what's that reflecting? There's nothing green. Oh, could be reflecting the green off that leaf, off that grape, but it's ricochet reflection. But if you really wanted to, oh no, I can kind of see some of the masking didn't work as well as I want it here, so I can go in and just kind of make that smaller, and we can just kind of clean this up a little bit along the edge. Now that I'm seeing it, it wasn't a perfect selection on the edge, but it's okay. All right, there we go. And the rest of that looks pretty good. Okay, so now, like I said, if you didn't want that reflection, then you might go back to that layer, go to your clone stamp tool, there we go, and make my brush just slightly bigger, and hold down your Option or Alt key, click, and just kind of brush out that reflection, even though no one would really notice it or care, but if you're caring, then you can kind of take care of it like that. All right, zoom out and you've got your second glass. Now, while I'm here, because I am in Photoshop, while I'm here, the other thing that I might do is I might go in and say, well, you know, these strings here over here are kind of distracting me a little bit. So I might zoom in. And just, I mean, they're okay. They're supposed to be there, but like this one's kind of bugging me a little bit. So I might go into my clone stamp tool, or not clone stamp, I'm sorry, spot healing brush, and go to the background because that's where it is, and just kind of start removing it. Just kind of taking that one away. And it's just using the surrounding pixels with the spot healing brush to blend it in. So that's why I'm doing a little at a time to kind of get rid of that messy one that was, you know, had some red in it that kind of doesn't help me. All right. Terry, put some wine in those glasses. I could do that. It'll take a little more time. Yeah. So we're, wait, hang on. I see something else down here. What's this? Oh, that's part of that glass. Hang on. We didn't mask it all. It's part of that glass we brought over that we didn't finish masking. So just get all of that out of there. All right. There we go. Okay, so now when I save this, it's saving out a PSD because that's what it's got layers, so it's going to save a PSD. And now when I close it and head back to Lightroom Classic or Lightroom, it's going to put it right next to the original. So here's the original with one glass, and here's the second one with the other, here's the new one with the new glass. So that made a Photoshop file that I can always go back and edit. It's always got the layers in it. It's always got whatever you've done to it, or whatever you added to it, adjustment layers included, and you got the original raw file if you completely messed up and need to start over. So that's how we round trip from Lightroom to Photoshop and back. So, and thank you, Marcia. Yeah, ever since that person made that comment, the second glass thing was kind of just bugging me. I was like, yeah, you know, I really wish that did have a second glass now that I look at it. So here's the other one. This is one I actually did print. I had this one printed and put it up. It's in my kitchen as a metal print right now. And I might have to get another metal print with a second glass. But in the meantime, how did I edit this one? Same kind of thing. Let's go ahead and go to Vivid and let's hit auto tone, where are you? Auto tone, there you are. Auto tone, that really just makes it pop right off the bat. So all the details are there. They're just not necessarily showing when you bring it in. They're all there. It just depends on what your settings were in your camera. So that while this looked good on screen initially, it was just a little too dark for me today. All right, so we'll increase that vibrance, we'll increase that saturation a little bit, and we'll definitely go in and add some texture to this. This photo screams, I want more texture, because the cheese can be more texturized. The water can be more texturized. It like screams, give me more texture. So same kind of thing. I don't like that string hanging down and that reflection from that string. So if I were to go into Photoshop, Command E, or right click, edit in Photoshop, then that will take a copy of it over to Photoshop, which it just did. I can zoom in and say, well, that one little string is distracting me. I think I did fix this in one of the master classes that we had afterwards, because I remember cloning this out, or not cloning it, but healing it out. There we go. And if you're going to remove something, don't forget whatever shadows or remnants it's leaving behind, because now that shadow doesn't make sense. What's the shadow from? Now, if I sit here and I'm doing this 4 or 5 times, it's not giving me what I want, I'm just going to switch to the patch tool and patch it, because that will give me what I want. All right. Okay. And that was from our masterclass a couple weeks ago when we were doing a live product shoot with Flash. All right, so now, again, I can keep doing things. I can try and duplicate that glass as well, but it'll just make me want to get another metal print. So let's go ahead and save it and close it. And there's a growing amount of food on Terry's plate. Yep. Let's go back to Lightroom, and it puts it right next to the original. Okay. So now we've done a landscape, we've done kind of a product shot, Let's get into one of the portraits here. I got some shots of Amanda. I got some shots of Sean. I got a shot of Tukey. I got a shot of Candace. Let's see. Oh, and I got a shot of Valerie. Who do I want to work on? Let's see. Let's do some work on Amanda. Okay. So Amanda, she's older now. This was a few years back. This was 9 years ago. So Amanda's a full-grown woman now. She was a teenager back then. But one of the things that she was even commenting on, like she was like, "Can you do something with my eyebrows here?" And I'm like, I'm not a makeup artist, but I know how to use Photoshop. So how would you just touch this up just a bit? And again, this is the model requesting this. This is not me saying it should happen. So if the person asks for it, then we should give it to them. All right, so I think I've already done most of the Lightroom work. Let's see. Let's go to develop. Yeah, I've already kind of moved the sliders where I wanted them to be. Also, one more thing I'll check because this was an older shot. Yep, I did enable the profile lens correction so that it's without it. It's adding that vignetting from the lens. It's also going to kind of bow your image out because that's what lenses do. But when we go in, we enable profile lens correction, which I didn't have to do that with my mirrorless camera because that's built into the camera. But for your DSLRs or your phone shots, you want to make sure this is enabled, and it will detect from the EXIF data what the camera was, what the lens was, and it will automatically apply a profile for it as long as we have that profile. So whatever camera you shoot, we're always adding new profiles to this with every new version of Lightroom and Camera Raw. All right, so now that's all done. Let's go ahead and edit in Photoshop. This was shot in RAW, so again, it's making that copy. And let's go in and let me show you what I would do here. All right, so this is easy, like just removing the couple extra hairs here and there. That's easy. What's not so easy is when you need to basically just see how this is nicely trimmed, and this is kind of nicely trimmed, but these few hairs are sticking up, and these few hairs are sticking up. That's an easy fix if you kind of just do one thing. It's kind of easy. So first and foremost, I'll make a duplicate layer just for people that freak out when you don't do that. And let's go ahead and do spot healing brush. I'm going to use my Wacom stylus. I always recommend people use a tablet whenever you can. So here's my tablet, and I'm just going to go ahead and work on the screen and kind of just remove a little of those spare hairs right there. And these pimples that are long gone, I'll take those out too. Okay, so now, how do we kind of even this out? How do we trim this? Well, it's a trick. So what you're going to do, and this is why, again, a stylus comes in handy. You're going to go in and you're going to do one at a time. It's almost impossible to do both eyes at the same time. You're going to grab your lasso tool, pick an eye, right or left, and right above where the hair is, you're just going to use a lasso and kind of trace the shape of it. So like that. And I didn't do it perfectly, but then you go up and around. All right, so now that we've traced that shape, we kind of got the shape the way we want. We're going to feather that selection. So we're going to go to Select, Modify, and Feather. How much to feather? It depends on your image. 50 is going to be way too much. I mean, when I say your image, depends on your resolution, because lower resolution images don't need as much feathering. Higher resolution images need more. It just really depends on what your what your image resolution is. I can't give you I can give you a starting number. Let's say we're going to start with 20. But you may need to go lower, you may need to go higher. It just depends on how much resolution is in your image. Now, feathering, what that does for new people is that softens this edge. So it's not just looking like you're going to cut it out with a pair of scissors. So it softens the pixels by 20 pixels on this resolution, which may be too little, maybe too much, I don't know. And then we're going to take that and make that selection its own layer. So again, I'll show it to you in the menu, new layer via copy or Command J. So now what we've done, all we've done is this. We put that on its own layer all by itself. And 20, again, might have been too much. That looks a little too soft around the edges. So I might delete that layer, do it again, or undo, because we can undo. and undo the feather and maybe go 10 pixels. So if it looks too soft, select, modify, feather. Let's go 10 instead. Click OK. Command J, put it on its own layer, and then look at that layer again. Yeah, it's not as soft around the edge. I don't want it to be hard, but I don't want it to be completely ghosted out either. All right, so now that we got the right number for this resolution, all we need to do now with that new eyebrow skin or skin above the eyebrow layer is you're going to grab your move tool and you're going to use it like a razor. You're just going to move it down. So it's there. We're just going to drag it down like so. Now we'll automatically start trimming those eyebrows just like that. That's it. Just, again, the before, the after. You're just going to move that down, before, after. And if you might move it down, if you move it down too much, back off a little bit. I would say maybe about right there. And that's our before and after. Okay. Now, I would merge it, but if you freak out when people merge layers, then keep it. Maybe we're going to call that, that's her left eye, but it's on my right, so left eye. Okay. Oh, and I spelled eye wrong. There we go. And now we're going to go back to that background copy, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So I'll move it over a little bit, grab the lasso. Lasso. And again, we're going to just carefully. Oh, you probably can't see my layers panel. I'll fix that in a minute. Oh, I'm too low. I need to be higher. So maybe I'll start on this side. Carefully go around. And it doesn't matter how high I go. We'll do that. And we'll turn off the hands cam so you can see what I'm doing this time. And now we'll go in and again, we'll do feather. So select, modify, feather, and 10 pixels. Click OK. Command J puts it on its own layer. Control J on Windows, and then we'll just move it down. Not any more than the other one, because we don't want one eyebrow to be skinnier than the other one. So about there. All right, and that will be right eye. Okay, so now again, the before and the after. It just cleans up that part of the eye. Okay, next up, since we're here, let's go ahead and work on, again, we'll go to the background layer. And the eyes are very important to me with my portraits. Now, some people will even ask, hey, can you fill in the areas of my eyelashes? So that it really gets, when it comes to makeup, people really get picky about what they want or don't want. So she didn't ask for that, so I'm not going to do it for now. But I would, if I had to do it, I would start cloning some of these eyelashes into this spot. And this over here looks pretty good. I would just maybe fill in that one little spot there. It just, again, depends on the person. All right, so next up, eyes are very important. Her eyes are beautiful. I just need to just make them pop a little bit more by just a little bit of sharpening. So the sharpen tool is right here. It's under your blur, sharpen, and one more tool. But anyway, it looks like that triangle. And you just want to make sure it's on by default, but you just want to make sure protect detail is on. Because what this tool does is it just literally makes jewelry, anything with sharp edges, just really stand out. So we can go in and just right on that pupil, just a couple brush strokes. That's even too much. Undo. Just less. There we go. And more, a little bit more over here. And again, let me undo. Let me show you the before and after. Let's make another copy. And we'll just go and do it now. A little bit. And before, the eyes almost look blurry. After, it just really sharpens that center of the eye, that pupil area of the eye up quite a bit. So before and after. It's again, all of this is subtle little changes. but they do make a difference. Now, the next thing I might do in this photo is I might go in and start just the stray hairs off to the side here. So this is always kind of a pet peeve of mine, but it's also one of those things that's a pain in the butt to do. Now, there's a couple tricks for this. We could clone it out. We could patch it out. We could do all kinds of things to remove it. But one of the things, no, actually it wasn't a 4-light setup. What you're seeing is a triflector reflector. So back before the highlighter, I had a reflector that was 3 panels. It was a panel on the left, panel on the right, and panel in the middle, and then the light above. So it looks like 4 lights, but it's really just 1 light with 3 reflectors. Okay, so how would I remove a stray hair like that? So you could, for example, you could try and heal it out. You could do that, and that's going to start to get rid of it. So that would work, but let me undo. You could clone it out. So we go to clone stamp tool, select the background, and we start, oh, hang on, I'm on the wrong, I'm not on 100%. There we go. We can start cloning it out. Okay, that works. But the problem is, as long as, and this is okay because the background's kind of evenly lit in that spot, but if the background goes from dark to light or light to dark, depending on the edges, hey, Deb Davis, then you could run into a problem where you're cloning from a darker area into a lighter area and vice versa. So let me undo that again, and let me show you a setting that you want to start using with your clone stamp tool, or really any tool that has these settings that can work with blend modes. So the clone stamp tool has a blend mode setting just like layers. So under mode, you've got the same blend modes you're used to in the layers panel, light and dark and multiply, whatever. So what we want to choose is lighten. In other words, that brown hair is darker than the gray background. So therefore, if I set the blend mode to lighten on my clone stamp tool, it won't touch anything else that's not already darker than the background. So the background color is okay. It will just keep doing what it's supposed to do and only affect the darker hair. So I set it to lighten, come over here, we can clone stamp, and I can brush all day long, and it's not going to change my background very much because the background's the same color. So this way I can kind of just brush out, and I can pick a new spot and brush out all of this stray hair without worrying about it changing the color of the background drastically or at all, because the background is not changing because it's not darker than the hair. So you can use lighten, you can use darken. I use either one depending on what I'm trying to do. So in this case, the hair is darker than the background. And I'm not doing a very clean job of this because I'm in a hurry. I only got like 11 minutes left. But just showing you the technique and the setting, and then you would go in and fine tune it. So you would just keep brushing, get it all kind of cleaned up, at least on the outer edges. And now what you also might do is sometimes it's not a matter of removing stray hair. Sometimes you've got what I call a hole in the hair. It's like just like a hole right there. There's where it should have been filled in, but it's not. It's just because the hair wasn't brushed, to the left or to the right that day. So, once you get rid of the outer edges, you could go in, switch your blend mode back to normal, and you could go into the hair itself, option or option click on it, and start just cloning that in to fill in that area. So you don't always have to get rid of the hair all the way down to the edge. You could also go the opposite way and fill it in. So that's kind of what was happening there, is that there were stray hairs on the outside and then what I call hair holes around the edge. So I can just use her existing hair to fill in just where the hair just didn't fall right on that particular shot. And that just, look at that left edge compared to that right edge. And also if we go in and we just do a quick before and after. Yeah, look at this edge where it's all kind of just still stray hairs, and this edge is nice and clean. That's the before, and that's our after. So you can go in and kind of just tweak that to your heart's content. Fixing a hole in the hair. Yep, that's what we did. And so same thing here. I would probably just fix that hole right here and just these holes, maybe even that hole, and then clean this up on the outside. So same thing. If we were gonna fix that, we would make our brush a little bigger, pick a new spot, and then just fix the holes like so. Something like that. Okay, and same thing down here. Just use that to just fill that area in, so then you don't have to worry about it. Oh, sorry. And we would keep going. All right. So that's a little bit of portrait retouching. So we would, again, we're not done. By the way, on any of these photos, I'm not saying we're done. I'm just saying that's a technique to do one thing, and we would keep working on this photo to do all the other things we'd want to do this photo, but we're just going to move on. Great. I'm glad you guys like that tip. All right, so now let's go ahead and close this one, because again, we could keep working on that photo, but we got other photos to do things with. So this photo of Valerie, I always love this photo. It's kind of moody. I like just her look at the camera and all that. There's a couple things I don't like. I don't like that. First of all, it's too dark. So let's go in and let's hit our auto tone. Oh, look at that. Let there be light. Okay, and one of the things that kind of distracts me from this photo is, and it's just because of the angle, it's just because of the light, it's just because of the shadow, it's nothing to do with her. She doesn't have any problem. But what it is that the vertebrae from her back, and this is just this is not a bone, this is a shoulder sticking out from that other side. So it's just the angle of the shot. This line is distracting me here. Nothing wrong with the person, it's just the way it was shot. So I would also crop in and kind of just take care of this edge and maybe straighten it out a little bit. So let's do that first. Let's just go in a little bit, because that edge is just, oh, hang on, unlock. That edge is distracting me. So I get something more like that and more like this. Okay, so now I got my shot framed up the way I want. The next thing I would do is, and again, she's got some stray hairs too. We already know how to take care of those. We would go in, and there's a feature in Photoshop called Liquify, and use your powers for good, not evil. And this is one of those, use it for good. And we just want to smooth that out, because again, it's not something wrong with her. It's just the way the light caught her back that's making it stand out more. We would never look at her and say, oh my God, your back's got bones in it. All of our backs have bones in it, hopefully. So let's go into, again, we could duplicate the layer. We could create a smart filter layer. You could do it any way you want. But let's go into filter. And let's go into camera raw filter. Not camera raw, sorry, Liquify. And we're going to go to Liquify, and we're just going to take, it's already on the tool we want, and we want to make sure that you're on pin edges. That's just two defaults you want to be on. And we just want to go ahead and just take the tool and just push ever so slightly those areas in. Like so. Let's make sure I didn't have anything down there. There we go. Just smooth it out like that. There we go. That's it. Just making it look the way it would normally look in person. Okay. So again, before, after. Just cleaning that one little protrusion out. That again is natural from just the way this is angled. All right, hey, what brush is that? It wasn't a brush, it was Liquify. Liquify is a filter, and it was the I think it's called the Move brush. No, it's called the Forward Warp tool in Liquify. It's the first tool on the left-hand side. Forward Warp tool. Okay, so then we would go in as just, I would probably start fixing some of these stray hairs on the top and left. We already kind of know how to do that, and we only have 4 minutes left, so I'm gonna bail on this photo. we'd come back and keep working on it. But I'm not going to just keep showing you the same techniques over and over again. We kind of know what we would do with the hair. All right, next. Let's go in and let's do one. Now, everything I showed you earlier were my photos. This particular one is a stock photo because I don't have a photo of a broken tooth, which I guess is a good thing. But people are like, hey, my tooth was broken in the shot. I got my tooth fixed. But I love this picture of me. Can I have my tooth fixed? And so we're in Photoshop. We're just going to go ahead again, duplicate that layer just so you have a before and after. And how would I fix this? So I would simply take the good tooth. I would use lasso or object select tool. Take the good tooth. Make a better selection of it. Take the good tooth. Like so. Okay. And Command J, put that tooth on its own layer. So now we have a second good tooth. We're just going to go ahead and start moving it over, but that tooth is not, they shouldn't look like that. In other words, it should be a mirror. So we're just going to go ahead and free transform, Command T, right click and flip horizontal. So we're just going to flip it over. There we go. And we're just going to put that tooth right about there and accept it. And then we're going to, oh, maybe it needs to come down a little bit. Let's see. No, we'll leave it where it is and we will fix that part that's protruding out. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to go to our mask, add a layer mask, and we're just going to mask the edge because the edge really stands out. So we've got our brush tool and we'll just kind of blend it in using the black brush, and the edge down here is kind of messed up. That's okay. And then using, go back to the background layer and maybe use clone stamp or a patch, smaller brush. This part that's sticking out down here is the old tooth. And we're just going to go ahead and just kind of clone that out. There we go. All right, something like that. And now our friend has his other tooth. Okay, so I got like 2 minutes left. The other thing I will just kind of get you to start looking for is, in my 2 minutes, when you have a situation like this where the light is obviously off, they're all yellow, just remember you have white balance. So whether you do this in Lightroom or Photoshop, or the camera raw filter in Photoshop, just go to the camera raw filter, go to your white balance. You can either click the eyedropper, which will help you by trying to find something in the photo that should be gray, black, or white. So I'm guessing her sweater should be gray. So I click on it and I was right. But let's say there was no gray, then I was gone to the purse because the purse should be black. And if there was no black, then I would go on to maybe the ID tag because it should be white. And that will, if you start with gray, that's going to let you quickly fix things pretty quickly with your white balance. Now, if you can't find something to click on, you have that temperature slider. Let's go back to the filter. Camera raw filter. You have that temperature slider to just say, okay, it was too yellow, bring it back this way. So you can, even if you don't have something to click on, you have the ability to just use the slider to get what you want. Okay, I am out of time. I got like 30 seconds left. So with that said, I want to thank you guys for joining me on yet another Friday Masterclass. I hope you guys learned some techniques, and I haven't met a photo yet that couldn't stand some editing or at least some adjusting. So even if you're perfecting it and you're getting it right in the camera, which I encourage you to do, that doesn't mean it still can't be enhanced once you get it into the computer. So just remember that, again, we strive to get things right in the camera. We strive to remove the things in the shot that you later would have to clone out. But if you miss things, if you want to just make things or take them up to the next level, you can in Lightroom, and you definitely can in Photoshop. All right, so with that said, stay tuned for the Photoshop daily creative challenge, which is up next. And you guys have a great weekend, and we'll be back next Friday for the exact same time and place for another masterclass. If you got topics you want things to cover, go ahead and put them in the chat before we end. And hopefully I can get to what you want to learn as well, because, I can always use extra topics. So cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.